So welcome to today's webinar. We're going to discuss how to find unprotected data. We're going to specifically look at one tool in the tool set for analyzing at-risk data on our networks. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. I want to thank you for your attendance. And for many of you, you are longtime clients, and I want to say thank you. Your longtime support is appreciated. And for those where this is your first exposure to PBSI, welcome. Our goal today is to inform. This isn't a sales presentation, it's a learning experience, and I hope everyone will get something of value. So thank you. Quick agenda. Today we're going to look at data theft and how to prevent, how to know in advance what data is stealable, what's exposed, what could a hacker find. So that's the subset of the overall security platform we're going to discuss today. So how can hackers access my data? What are the layers of IT security? We'll show how this particular tool fits into the context of security. And the tool we're going to look at is data breach risk analysis. It's an electronic tool that finds all unprotected data, which we'll define on your network. And it's a completely impressive tool, a very worthwhile and quite inexpensive solution that allows all of us to know what our risk is and protect against it. So one of the things we'll learn is how can I find out how much my unprotected data is worth on the open market to a hacker and what it costs to solve this. So primarily we're going to look at this tool and understand why this is important. So once again, I'm Ray Kuhl. Thanks for joining. So for those of you who know PBSI, there's nothing I could say to help you understand more clearly. For those of you who don't know PBSI, we are a technology-focused company supporting hundreds of clients in healthcare and in business throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana with a very, very dedicated and quality staff, many of which, 27 of our staff, have been with us for more than 10 years. So I know that knowledge and caring about clients help clients succeed. So this is our focus, helping with technology issues so clients don't have to be experts. So why do we need protection from data theft? So data theft is a growing problem, and data theft is one subcategory underneath malware or ransomware. Everybody knows today that the internet's a dangerous place. You wouldn't be attending this webinar if you didn't have some understanding that protection is important and learning is important. So the general category of malware, ransomware as a subcomponent, is basically a tool which comes in many varieties. There are some very common varieties that are widely available on the internet that hackers use to make financial gain. So malware generally is acquired by clicking on a link or opening an attachment. And among the most dangerous aspects is sometimes you're alerted right then, okay, you've been hacked, this is ransomware, but sometimes you are not made aware. So one of the big risks of ransomware is that it can live undetected for any period of time it wishes on your network, copying data, doing whatever it wishes to before finally waking up and delivering a message that says your data files have been encrypted, all the network drives you're connected to have been encrypted, and pay a ransom to unlock your data files. So this is actually the variation that is less risky than the one that says that one that has stolen your data before it does that. That's the risk we're going to talk about today, is how can I identify what data we have on our network that's of value and how can we prevent access and know how much risk we're actually taking. So traditional security measures are all important. We need a firewall, we need antivirus, we need auto patch updates, we need multi-layer security. These are basic principles that we do delve into in some of our security webinars, which are all free. Employee education, very important component. And then there are emerging technologies. The one we're going to talk about today is data risk intelligence scanning. So this is a patented tool. There are other variations on the market. Generally speaking, some of the tools that are available are very expensive. The tool that we use is patented technology, and it's very inexpensive. It's a fantastic tool. It's my new favorite among the security tools available from PBSI. So the overall multi-layer security of a network, very briefly, we need to protect exterior and interior. So we have to have a properly programmed firewall. We have to have antivirus and intrusion prevention, blocking things at the firewall level before it enters our facility or facilities. And these newer firewalls employ technology that are really quite important. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck because the inspection process filters out things that we may want passed through. So there's expertise and tuning required. So we have exterior protection. We have employee education. If anyone listening doesn't have a consistent program for educating your employees, please let us know. We do some free things to help clients with employee education, handouts, and we do some very inexpensive employee training, which we can do live with just your office, or we can provide free webinars for your employees to watch. Those won't be the focus of today. Everyone needs antivirus and patch management on your PCs. Excuse me. And then those are the prevent issues, if you will. So then I'm going to talk about detecting, recovering, and training, but we're going to focus just on one thing, really. So detecting, active online monitoring. And those of you who are PBSI clients who are listening, most of you already have PBSI doing your antivirus and your online monitoring. So we're already aware of unusual network activity in a variety of ways. The tool we're going to look at today is an add-on tool called Data Risk Breach Intelligence. We summarize it at places to allow space on a screen. And then there's an additional really important new technology backup that's available that secures data to make sure that you can always recover. But today we're going to talk about data breach intelligence. And so in the universe of tools, this data breach intelligence, I'm going to demonstrate here very shortly, but it involves a proactive scan that can be done one time, or more frequently, once it's installed, you run it nightly. It's inexpensive to have the scan continuing to run, and it finds all unprotected data. So what is unprotected data? It's data that's unencrypted, and it's data that's accessible. So those are the two key things. So if a server were in your office but you aren't connected to it, that's unavailable. But anything that in your network where you have a connection, a properly crafted hacker invasion can unlock access that you may not have personally from your device. So available is different than unprotected. Unprotected means unencrypted. So data on your network, generally speaking, is not encrypted. If you're a healthcare organization, your patient information almost certainly is encrypted if it's stored within your practice management or your electronic record system. Commercial businesses rarely encrypt files, and it's likely that there's maybe little or no data on your network that's encrypted. So what this tool does is it finds data that would be of interest to hackers, and you can summarize that as private information. So it's electronic patient information, it's credit card information, it's social security numbers, credit card numbers, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, patient IDs, anything that's available. And on the open market, this data has value. So there isn't just one pricing methodology, but there's enough knowledge now about the hacker community to know that if you have a list of social security numbers that don't have names attached, doesn't have much value. But if you have a name, social security number, of course it has more value if it has the security code and so forth. So the combination of data that exists defines the value of that piece of data. And the treasure trove for a hacker is healthcare data or credit card data or employee social security number data that has other information attached that allows a hacker, when sold, allows somebody to really take economic advantage of that data. So the tool we're going to look at analyzes what it finds, where it finds it, and what in combination is found. So with that, it knows how to value this set of data is worth X dollars, and you'll see how it does that. So this is very useful for HIPAA. It identifies any HIPAA risks, and the work that it does is virtually impossible to do manually. I can sit at my PC, I could never find the same information that this data breach scan finds when it runs automatically, and I'm not sitting at my PC. So it's also very useful for PCI compliance. Anyone who takes credit card information likely has some level of PCI compliance that you're required to regularly report on. And the more you do in this area, the more stringent and more expensive your PCI requirements are. So this tool will find all PCI compliance issues and identify how to fix them. So since it does the work of highly paid IT experts, which you're not going to need to employ, excuse me, the cost of this is a fraction of what a security expert might charge. So PBSI, yes, we're security experts, but we do not need to go into your PCs and individually do work. This is a tool that runs automatically, so it's very useful. And you can rescan anytime. So this, the basic idea is we're going to run a tool that finds out what is unprotected on our network. And so now I'm going to go and demonstrate this. So instead of using PowerPoint, I'm now going to go to my live internet connection, and what you're seeing in front of you is a dashboard that is the central hub of PBSI's online monitoring activity. So most of what we do with online monitoring, I'm not going to review today, but the basic idea here is there's a list of PBSI clients on the left side, and some of them have issues and some of them don't. So a technician on our dashboard can find one of these clients. I'm going to immediately scroll down and only select PBSI. So I select PBSI, and so over here on the right-hand side of the screen, then the only things you're seeing are devices that are actually at PBSI. So we're not exposing client information in a public webinar like this. So what a technician is doing is they're starting, this dashboard is in front of them all day long, as in the course of other routine business, and everything that happens results in an alert. So some alerts come by email, some by text, or different alert categories, but the idea is they're monitoring servers, workstations, mobile devices, services running on your network, and other network activity. So in this tab, we could see all mobile phones on our network, all switches. So there's a variety of things that we can look at, but the basic starting point is all the servers that we're evaluating. So here's a list of all the servers. I'm going to call this the north pane, and I'm going to call this the south pane where my cursor is moving. So when I go to the north pane, when I pick on a particular device, this is a server, the things that display in the south pane are the things that are being tracked and monitored about that particular server. So I click on a different server, I get a different set of information. So I'm going to click on this Exchange server. This actually is our live Exchange server at PBSI, and there's something that's at the top of the list. The basic idea is that on the north pane, the most important devices, meaning the most at risk or the most critical thing going on, would appear at the top of this list, and then in the south pane, the most important potential issue would show up for the selected device on top. So failed login is just an example. I haven't looked at this. This says that there were 30 failed logins, and in this case, it was all 30 of them are using this IP address. So what I find is, I'm not a technician. Technician would tell me exactly what that IP address is. There's some kind of a test going on. So this is not indicated by any red. So the technicians are looking, and the basic idea is red, yellow, green. Yellow is something that might be a pending issue, and one down here just turned yellow. And something that's red would, of course, be a higher priority. So online monitoring checks performance issues, it checks antivirus issues, it checks hardware issues. There are a variety of things, event logs, that can be learned. So I'm not going to focus there today, but I'm going to also select this next tab, which is workstations. So we find a lot more issues come up at workstations than on servers. And the reason for that is probably pretty clear. That's where end users live. So end users are, and mistakes, clicking the wrong thing. Nobody's doing it intentionally, but that is the source of most security issues. Most things that pop up, viruses or malware, result from an employee behavior. So this is where the action is, workstation. So there are 3 workstations at PBSI that are highlighted, and so I could look at these workstations and identify what is it that's at issue. So the managed antivirus on that particular unit, it just refreshed, and so it's no longer an issue, but it was an issue, and that's pretty much what goes on. So we select a workstation to check out, and it says, here's what's going on. So the vulnerability scan failed at this workstation. Okay, enough. Now, the things that can be checked, and they're done automatically, what happens is there's a monitoring agent installed on each of these PCs, and it reports into an online dashboard, each PC does, every 15 minutes or half hour or 1 hour, depends. The setup is up to you and up to PBSI. There's no additional cost. So these units all report in, and every time they report in on all the areas that are being tracked. So on this particular PC, there are maybe 30 different issues that are being tracked, and when one reports in with an issue, there's a red indicator and it shows up at the top of the list on the top. Okay, so that's the basic concept. So the things that are tracked, we know the virus status or patch status. So here's a case where patch management is really important. We do this for all clients who use our security services. And when this kind of thing, there's a missing patch shows up, a technician can simply approve that now and have that automatically done. We have these set such that certainly at the end of the day, that would have been handled automatically anyway. So we can see what assets exist, what hardware, what software is installed on this PC. Well, the thing that I'm going to look at right now is I'm going to look at tasks, but I'm going to look at tasks on one specific workstation. I'm going to pick on myself. So now we're going to look at data breach scanning, which is a subset. And we can install data breach scanning for a client as the only thing we do. So you might say, we want to do this data breach scanning. We don't care about the monitoring or the antivirus. No problem, we can do that. So this is how it works. So on my PC, I just keyed in the name Ray, so anything at PBSI with the name Ray associated with it shows up, and I'm clicking on my desktop. So the PC at which I'm sitting right now, speaking to you from, is the PC that we're looking at online. So on my desktop, there is this Tasks tab, and it shows that there is data breach security running on this task. So there's a bigger picture that I can see, and I'll do that now. This is the bigger picture, all the scanning that's being done by PBSI. We can see the various devices and which ones are most problematic, which ones, there are 385 devices out there right now that we're scanning that show credit card information on them, Visa card information, MasterCard, different kind of Visa card, Discover card, American Express, and so forth. So we have driver's license, we have social security number. This is basically a big picture dashboard so that at the highest level, one can look and say, so is what's the overall scope of activity. For this discussion today, we're not looking big picture, we want to look at little picture. I want to find out what's going on with Ray's PC. So last night, as every night, a data breach scan was run at PBSI across all of our devices, and each reported back in with the current status of issues. So I can look at the PCI compliance or the security compliance, or I can look at what I'm going to do right now is the data breach scan that has been found. And I'm going to find out what the most recent result was of the data breach scan run on Ray's PC. And so on the dashboard, which it's accessing right now, it's displaying data, and you're going to see what it found on my PC. I won't do this with problematic devices at PBSI or client sites because you might be, I'm not sure, you might react with shock when you see that there's a device with $11 million worth of data on it or $962,000 worth of data on it. But those kinds of things aren't unusual before we clean a device up. When we first ran this data breach scan at PBSI, I was shocked at the things that were found. So it's now completing its refresh here, and it says on Ray's PC, it found $603 worth of data. What does that really mean? So there's an algorithm built into this scanning tool that knows the current value at which a hacker could sell each data element and how many of them are there, and it extends out the total. So if we had an entire patient list in a healthcare database with social security numbers and some other information, that has very high value and would quickly get to the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars worth of potential data value, or could quickly get there. In my case, there's just a little bit of data. So that is identified, and of course I'm looking at this one PC, but the routine that would be followed is we'd be evaluating daily which of the PCs that are reporting more than a minor amount of data, and I can choose to ignore the $603 on Ray's PC, or I can find out what it is. So here's what I can see. On my PC, there are two files. One is in Ray, this is our network name, it's in my documents folder, and there's a file called a sample file with dummy SS numbers. That's really the file name of this Excel file. So there's an Excel file, and if I drill further into it, it tells me that that Excel file has a date of birth and not a lot of data there. There wouldn't be a lot of high value to this, and it's in a sample file. So I left it there intentionally so that the scan would find it, and it finds it every time it runs, but I don't do anything about it. So then it found another file. I also leave this here because it's interesting. Notice where it finds this file. It finds it on my OneDrive, which is not located on my PC, and in a subfolder. And this is a document that is a PDF, so it's not just reading text and Excel data. It's reading inside of files that are stored as images, and it finds a document here that really is true. This is my part of my son and my granddaughter's date of birth, and so it found this data, and I thought, well, that's really interesting, but since I don't consider this particularly sensitive information, it's useful for demonstrating, I leave it there. But the basic idea on your network, you would evaluate. There might be some cases like mine where you would say, okay, let's leave it there, it doesn't really matter. But generally speaking, the action required for any unprotected data is either to delete it or to encrypt it. So encrypting any document can be done, or most any document, Word and Excel files, for example, just save it with a password and it's encrypted as long as the password has enough complexity. It's safe from short-term access. So this is the basic idea. If I showed you our human resources PC, frequently that PC shows up on a regular basis where it finds files in the undeleted, in the recycle bin, because a file was deleted, but the user, who's my wife at PBSI, forgot to empty her recycle bin. It's found data in archived Outlook files. So our office manager, when we first ran this scan, it found a file on her PC that was a list of credit card numbers. And our policy at PBSI has always been, we don't store credit card numbers electronically. If we keep a credit card number for a client, we write it on a piece of paper, we store it in a locked drawer. So it's low tech, but it's done for complete security. So the data breach scan found this file on the office manager's PC. I went to her and sat down and said, gee, this must be something wrong here. This is interesting. This is what the scan found. And she looked at me and said, oh, am I not supposed to do that? So sure enough, there was a list there. And so it's one thing for Ray, the president, to say, yeah, we've got great security policies and procedures. Trust me, this kind of thing isn't going on our network. But it's another thing to know that each employee is actually aware of and following the procedure. So it was a real simple fix in her case. We encrypted the file. And it also found on the same PC, though, our former office manager, who has not been at PBSI for some years, still had an Outlook archived file on the PC, because as you may know, when you have a new user at a Windows PC, you set up a username, you don't have to remove the old username. So there was an attachment to an email that had been deleted in her deleted email some years ago that contained some Social Security number information, and it still sat there in this archived PST file. No one would have ever found it by hand, but the data breach scan found it. So the basic idea is it's a lot smarter and a lot faster than we are, and it will identify every place where you have at-risk saleable data. So that's the basic process here. Then the follow-up is manual, if you will. We either advise a client, here's how you can go address these, or more frequently a client says, yes, take care of these things for us, and we interact. So with this file, what do? Do we delete it? We encrypt it? What's the preference? And once we understand a client's rules, then we can behave on your behalf as your security team without even being in your office. So that's how data breach scanning works. And it's very, very effective. So in summary, we're going to be through shortly. I'm going to continue on here, and let's just talk about what is the value of what goes on here. So how much does it cost? So the first question, how much is my data worth? The way you find out is you have a one-time scan run. Then you'll know value, files, locations, you know, everything necessary to clean the data up. So a one-time scan, generally in a smaller organization, $800. Especially if we're already providing services, then we have access to your network, and the cost to do the initial scan is very low. So if we need to come on site and do more work, then the cost might be somewhat higher. But with this, you have all the information, you know, the value data, you know what's there. Then if you wish PBSI to remove or protect, generally speaking, a day's worth of work. It just depends on the network. So to have a scan done and clean up your network, generally you're talking about a fairly inexpensive process, certainly for the risk protection it affords, quite cost effective. If you want this process to continue regularly, $3 a month per device. So again, not expensive, and you don't have to have it run on all the devices on your network. You might have just your CEO, your controller, your office manager, so forth, your accounting personnel, human resources, those kinds of things. And then if you wish, ongoing removal so that PBSI is monitoring and excuse me, eliminating newly at-risk data as it comes about. This would be a monthly fee just associated with how many hours we'd expect it to take, and we just handle this for you and report on your behalf what we've done. So this is the summary, and hopefully it's clear the value of this tool. So not every organization is this critical, but if you feel like you may have some data, you don't know how much data is there, it's real easy to have this done. One thing I know is that every time we have a client who has a security breach, it's always a surprise. There's always a phone call that's, oh my gosh, what can you do to help us? This is what just happened to us. And I could tell some stories, very interesting stories about CEO hacks and things where data was breached. Just last week, I got a call from a client who certainly will remain unnamed, who wanted to explore this very thing we're talking about because their accountant had received an email from their CEO, quote, CEO. It had happened before, and she'd fell victim to this, but this time she saw, this email address isn't exactly our CEO's email address, and she was smart, proud of herself, and deleted the email. The next day, she sent an email to the CEO with some financial information about the company, and as she keyed in the CEO's email address, Outlook defaulted to the fake email address, and she actually sent the email to the hacker. Because just some training, it's just silly things that aren't silly at all can happen without employee awareness. So when a breach happens, it's always a surprise. And the predictable response, who's responsible? Why didn't we, why didn't you do more to protect our network? So we all know that audits are increasing in frequency, and you want to be prepared before an auditor or a hacker gets access. There's a simple way to do it. So if you'd like more information, we're here to help. I hope this has been informative today, and we're finished with content. So I want to thank you for your participation, and I want to say that you're welcome to log off now. So the follow-up, so I'm going to stay online now for questions. If you have questions, feel free to use your chat box, and I'll stay online. But again, we're finished, so you are